Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Dominion's fist, his four arms crossed behind his back as he gazed out at the small blue planet rotating slowly before them. The third planet from a yellow star, unremarkable in every way except for one crucial detail. It harbored intelligent life that had somehow escaped the Empire's notice for centuries. Admiral, long-range sensors confirm multiple spacefaring vessels in orbit around the planet, reported Commander Veltar, her scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Primitive fusion drives, basic metal hulls, nothing that poses a threat to our forces. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Another easy conquest for the Empire. In his 300 years of service, he had overseen the subjugation of 47 different species. The pattern was always the same: arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate superior technology, watch the natives surrender in terror. Some species took longer than others to accept their new reality, but they all eventually bowed before the might of the Galactic Empire. "How many vessels?" he asked, not bothering to turn around. "Approximately 200 small craft, Admiral. The largest appears to be no more than 500 meters in length. Our intelligence suggests these humans have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel." Zethkar finally turned, his towering frame casting a shadow across the bridge crew. At over 3 meters tall, with chitinous armor plating and bioluminescent patches that glowed with authority, he cut an intimidating figure even among his own species. "Recent FTL capability?" "How recent?" "Based on electromagnetic emissions we've intercepted, approximately 50 of their years, Admiral." A sound that might have been laughter if it came from a human throat escaped Zethkar's vocal slits. 50 years? We've been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. These creatures are infants playing with toys they don't understand. The bridge crew shared in their admiral's amusement. The Zelthrak had been the dominant species in the galaxy for millennia, their empire spanning 300 systems and encompassing dozens of subjugated races. Each conquest had followed the same pattern: arrive, intimidate, subjugate. The humans would be no different. "Shall we begin the standard intimidation protocol, Admiral?" asked Commander Veltar. "Indeed. Open a channel to their largest vessel. Let's see what these humans are made of." The main view screen shifted to show the interior of what appeared to be a command center aboard one of the human vessels. The being that appeared on screen was bipedal, with pale skin and short dark hair. Its eyes, only 2 of them, Zethkar noted with some disdain, widened slightly as it took in the sight of the alien bridge. "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Imperial Navy," he began, his voice automatically translated by the ship's linguistic computers. "You are representatives of the species known as humans, correct?" The human on the screen straightened in what Zethkar recognized as a display of courage, though he could sense the fear underlying it. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiance. You're not from our system. What do you want?" "What I want is very simple, Captain Chen," Zethkar replied, savoring the moment. This was always his favorite part. "I want your complete and unconditional surrender." Captain Chen's expression remained steady, though Zethkar's enhanced vision could detect the slight increase in her heart rate through thermal imaging. "Surrender? We haven't done anything to you. We don't even know who you are." "Who we are is your new masters," Zethkar said, gesturing to the tactical display that showed the positions of his fleet. "You see before you the 3rd Imperial Fleet of the Galactic Empire. 50 dreadnoughts, 200 heavy cruisers, 500 destroyers, and 1,000 support vessels. Each of our dreadnoughts could destroy your entire planet with a single salvo." The captain's eyes flicked to something off-screen, presumably her own tactical displays. When she looked back, there was something different in her expression. Not the terror Zethkar expected, but what almost looked like Calculation. That's an impressive fleet, she said slowly. But I'm curious about something. If you're so powerful, why are you talking to us instead of just attacking? Zethkar's bioluminescent patches flared brighter, a sign of irritation. Because the Empire prefers to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Surrender now, accept Imperial rule, and your species will be integrated peacefully into our civilization. Resist, and we will demonstrate why 47 other species chose submission over destruction. 47 other species, Captain Chen repeated. And none of them chose to fight? Oh, some tried, Zethkar said, his mandibles clicking in amusement. The Korathi had a fleet twice the size of yours. The Vallani thought their energy shields would protect them. The Borthak believed their warrior culture made them invincible. They were all wrong. Captain Chen nodded slowly. I see. And where are these species now? Serving the Empire in various capacities. The Korathi excel at deep space mining. The Vallani make adequate technicians. The Borthak, well, their warrior culture was redirected toward more constructive purposes. Slaves, you mean? Zethkar's patches flared again. The Empire prefers the term integrated citizens. But if you wish to be crude about it, yes, they serve. For a long moment, Captain Chen was silent. When she spoke again, her voice was perfectly calm. I need to consult with my government. How long are you willing to give us to consider your offer? You have 6 of your hours, Zethkar replied. Surrender or face the consequences. The transmission ended, and the view screen returned to showing the small human fleet in the distance. Commander Veltar approached her admiral, her expression puzzled. Sir, I don't understand their response. Most species show immediate fear when confronted with our fleet. The humans seemed almost analytical. Zethkar waved a dismissive hand. Fear takes different forms in different species. Some scream, some weep, some freeze. Apparently, humans become coldly logical. It matters little. They've seen our strength. They'll surrender. But even as he said the words, something nagged at the admiral's mind. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that responded to overwhelming force with such composure. The captain's questions had been specific, probing. Almost as if she were gathering intelligence rather than simply reacting in terror. Admiral, called the sensor operator, we're detecting increased activity among the human vessels. Multiple ships are changing course, moving to new positions. Probably evacuating their non-essential personnel, Zethkar mused. Standard procedure when facing extinction. But the nagging feeling persisted. The human fleet's movements were too coordinated, too purposeful for a panic evacuation. They were forming formations, battle formations. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're intercepting human transmissions. Should I put them through the translators? Yes. Let's hear what our soon-to-be subjects are discussing. The bridge speakers crackled to life with translated human voices. All civilian vessels to safe distance confirmed. Weapon systems online and ready. Remember, they've done this 47 times before. They think they know how this ends. Let's show them something new. Zethkar's blood ran cold. Weapon systems? These primitives were actually planning to fight against a fleet that had conquered nearly 50 species? Commander Veltar, how long until the 6 hours are up? 4 hours and 37 minutes, Admiral. Open a channel to the human fleet, all vessels. This time, multiple human faces appeared on the screen, captains from different ships, all wearing the same expression of grim determination. Captain Chen was among them, and she spoke first. Admiral Zethkar, have you reconsidered your demands? I am calling to offer you one final chance, Zethkar said, his voice strained. Your fleet is moving into attack positions. This is foolish beyond measure. Stand down immediately. Captain Chen exchanged glances with the other human commanders before responding. "We've been talking among ourselves, Admiral, about your empire, your conquests, your 47 subjugated species. And we've reached a conclusion." Chen's expression hardened. "We're not them." The transmission ended abruptly. Zethkar stared at the blank screen, his mind reeling. Not them? What did that mean? Did these humans not understand the concept of overwhelming odds? Did they not comprehend that resistance was futile? "Sir," the tactical officer reported, his voice tight with disbelief. "The human fleet is advancing." "What?" "They're moving toward us, Admiral. All vessels, in attack formation." Zethkar rushed to the tactical display, unable to believe what he was seeing. 200 primitive human vessels, tiny specks compared to his mighty dreadnoughts, were indeed advancing on his fleet of nearly 2,000 ships. It was insane. It was suicide. It was unprecedented. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the humans." "Put it through." Captain Chen appeared on screen one final time. Behind her, Zethkar could see the bridge of her ship buzzing with activity as crew members prepared for combat. "Admiral Zethkar," she said, her voice carrying across space with crystal clarity, "I want you to understand something about humans. We've studied your previous conquests. 47 species. All of them surrendered without a real fight. But here's the thing about humans. We don't surrender. We don't bow. We don't serve." "You're committing suicide," Zethkar snarled. "Your entire species will be extinct within the hour." Chen smiled. Actually smiled. And Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. "Admiral, you're about to learn the difference between a species that has never truly fought for survival and one that clawed its way to the top of its planet's food chain through pure, stubborn refusal to give up. You've conquered 47 species that had never experienced real war." She leaned forward, her eyes blazing with an intensity that made Zethkar step back involuntarily. "Congratulations. You just found number 48. And we've been preparing for this day since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. We've been preparing for you." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Zethkar could hear his own hearts beating rapidly in his chest. For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, he felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. "All ships to battle stations," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Prepare for combat." As alarms began blaring throughout the Imperial fleet, Admiral Zethkar watched the human vessels continue their impossible advance. 200 ships against nearly 2,000. By every logical calculation, it should be a massacre. So why did he have the growing suspicion that he had made a terrible mistake? The answer would come soon enough. The Galactic Empire tried to intimidate. The battle begins. Admiral Zethkar stood rigid on his command deck, watching the tactical display with growing unease. The human fleet had closed to within weapons range, a distance that should have meant their immediate destruction. His ship's energy cannons could vaporize those primitive human vessels with ease. So why hadn't he given the order to fire? Because something was wrong. Terribly wrong. "Admiral," Commander Veltar reported, her voice tight with confusion, "the humans have stopped advancing. They're holding position at exactly 15,000 kilometers. That's optimal engagement range for our primary batteries," observed the tactical officer. "They shouldn't know that." But they did know. Somehow, these supposedly primitive humans had positioned themselves at the exact distance where Imperial energy weapons would have maximum effectiveness, and then simply stopped, as if they were waiting for something. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission." Captain Chen's face appeared on the view screen once again, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her, Zethkar could see dozens of human officers working frantically at their stations. The bridge lighting had shifted to a harsh red color that reminded him uncomfortably of emergency battle conditions. "Admiral Zethkar," Chen said, her voice carrying a strange note that Zethkar couldn't quite identify. "Was it excitement? Before we begin, I thought you might like to know something about human military history. I am not interested in your species' primitive conflicts," Zethkar replied, though part of him was curious despite himself. Chen smiled that disturbing smile again. "Oh, but you should be. You see, humans have been fighting wars for our entire recorded history. Not the kind of simple territorial disputes you've seen from other species, but total warfare. Extinction-level conflicts where the only choices were complete victory or total annihilation." She gestured to something off-screen, and the view screen split to show historical images: burning cities, massive explosions, vessels engaged in brutal combat among the stars of what was clearly the Sol system. "We fought each other for thousands of years before we ever left our homeworld," Chen continued. "We created weapons that could destroy entire continents. We built defenses that could withstand planet-killing asteroids. We learned to fight in space, on airless moons, in the crushing depths of our oceans, and in the burning atmosphere of gas giants." Zethkar felt his confidence wavering. "Your internal conflicts are irrelevant. You face the Imperial Navy now, not your own kind." "That's where you're wrong," Chen said. "When humanity finally united and reached for the stars, we didn't stop preparing for war. We just started preparing for a different kind of war. The kind of war we always knew would come when we met others among the stars." The historical images shifted to show massive orbital installations, fleets of warships unlike anything in Zethkar's databases, and weapon systems that seemed to defy conventional understanding. "For 50 years, Admiral, every human colony, every space station, every ship has been built with one question in mind. What do we do when something from out there decides we don't deserve to exist?" Zethkar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports show primitive fusion drives and basic metal hulls." Chen's smile widened. "Your intelligence reports show exactly what we wanted you to see." Before Zethkar could process the implications of that statement, alarms began blaring across his bridge. The tactical officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral, the human vessels are changing!" On the main display, the impossible was happening. The human ships, those supposedly primitive craft with basic metal hulls, were transforming before his eyes. Hull plates were sliding away to reveal weapon batteries that definitely hadn't been there moments before. Engine signatures were shifting as what had appeared to be simple fusion drives revealed themselves to be something far more advanced. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported the sensor operator. "Admiral, these aren't the same ships we've been monitoring." "Stealth technology," Commander Veltar whispered. "They've been hiding their true capabilities." But it was worse than that. Much worse. Because as the human vessels completed their transformations, Zethkar realized that the fleet he was facing wasn't comprised of 200 small ships. It was 200 ships that were each individually larger than his own dreadnoughts. "Impossible," he breathed. "The mass readings, they should have been detectable." Captain Chen's voice cut across his confusion. "Holographic camouflage, gravitational field manipulation, and selective stealth coding. We've had 50 years to prepare for this moment, Admiral. 50 years to study every piece of data about galactic civilization that we could intercept. 50 years to build ships specifically designed to fight an enemy with superior numbers and established technology." The tactical display was updating frantically as the ship's computers tried to process the new information. Where moments before it had shown 200 small human vessels, it now displayed an enemy fleet that was individually larger and appeared to be technologically superior to anything in the Imperial Navy's database. "All ships, open fire," Zethkar commanded, his voice cracking with desperation. The space between the two fleets lit up as nearly 2,000 Imperial vessels unleashed their primary weapons simultaneously. Energy beams that had vaporized countless enemy fleets streaked across space toward the human ships and simply stopped. "What is that?" Commander Veltar gasped. The humans had activated some kind of barrier, not the energy shields the Empire was familiar with, but something that seemed to absorb the Imperial weapons fire entirely. The massive energy beams struck the barrier and vanished, as if they had never existed at all. "Sir," the science officer reported, his voice shaking, "the barrier appears to be some kind of exotic matter field. It's not deflecting our weapons. It's converting the energy into something else entirely." "Converting it into what?" Before anyone could answer, the human fleet responded, but they didn't fire energy weapons like the Empire's forces. Instead, the space around their ships filled with thousands of small objects, missiles or torpedoes of some kind, that accelerated far faster than anything in Imperial databases suggested was possible. "Kinetic projectiles," the tactical officer reported. "Velocity increasing. Admiral, they're accelerating beyond light speed." "That's impossible. Nothing with mass can exceed light speed." But the human weapons were doing exactly that. Thousands of projectiles that somehow bypassed the fundamental laws of physics, crossing the space between fleets in seconds rather than minutes. The first Imperial ship to be hit, the heavy cruiser Stellar Fang, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of superheated plasma. No explosion, no dramatic detonation, just gone. "They're not using conventional matter," the science officer reported frantically. "These projectiles appear to be composed of exotic particles that exist in a state between normal space and hyperspace. They're phasing through our shields and armor as if they weren't there." More Imperial ships began vanishing as the human barrage continued. Not just destroyed, completely annihilated at the molecular level. Zethkar watched in horror as vessels that had conquered dozens of star systems were wiped from existence by weapons that shouldn't have been possible. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace," he commanded. "We can't, sir," the navigation officer replied. "They're jamming our FTL drives somehow." Captain Chen's voice cut through the chaos once more. "We call them quantum torpedoes," she said conversationally, as if she weren't in the middle of obliterating an entire Imperial fleet. "They exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously until they impact their target, at which point they collapse into normal space-time and release their energy directly into the target's atomic structure." Another dozen Imperial ships vanished. Zethkar's massive fleet, the pride of the Empire that had conquered 47 species, was being systematically dismantled by weapons that violated everything he thought he knew about physics. "The barrier around their ships," he said desperately. "It's powered by our weapons, isn't it?" "They're using our own energy against us." "Very good," Chen replied. "We call it a conversion field. Your energy weapons charge our defensive systems and power our offensive capabilities. The more you shoot at us, the stronger we become." It was diabolical. The humans had built their entire fleet around fighting an enemy that relied on energy weapons. Every shot the Imperial Navy fired made their enemies more powerful while doing no damage in return. "Admiral," Commander Veltar called out, "we're losing ships faster than our computers can track. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed within 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 3 centuries of Imperial dominance ended in half an hour by a species that was supposed to be primitive. "How?" Zethkar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How did you know? How did you prepare for this?" Captain Chen's expression softened slightly. "Admiral, for 50 years we've been monitoring your Empire's communications. We know about every species you've conquered, every battle you've fought, every weapon system you've deployed. We studied your tactics, your technology, your psychology. She leaned forward, her eyes reflecting a sadness that Zethkar didn't understand. "We know about the Karathi, who tried to fight you with conventional tactics and were overwhelmed. We know about the Villani, who relied on energy shields and were defeated when your weapons simply overpowered their defenses. We know about the Borthak, who thought their warrior culture would be enough." The human fleet continued its methodical destruction of the Imperial forces. But they weren't firing indiscriminately. Zethkar realized they were targeting command ships and weapons platforms specifically, while leaving life support and escape systems intact. "We learned from their mistakes," Chen continued. "Every species you conquered taught us something about how not to fight you. So we built our ships to be invisible until we wanted to be seen. We developed weapons that your defenses can't stop. We created strategies based on 50 years of studying your empire's greatest weakness." "What weakness?" Zethkar demanded. Captain Chen's smile returned, but this time it was tinged with something that might have been pity. "You've been winning for so long that you forgot how to fight a war. You know how to intimidate and overwhelm, but you've never faced an enemy that was prepared for you. An enemy that wanted you to think they were weak until it was too late to adapt." The tactical display showed the grim reality. Over half the Imperial fleet had been destroyed, and the human ships hadn't taken so much as a scratch. The most powerful military force in galactic history was being defeated by 200 human vessels that had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender demands from multiple human ships." "They want us to surrender?" Zethkar laughed bitterly. "After we came here to conquer them?" "Actually," Chen said, somehow having overheard the conversation, "we want to talk. You see, Admiral, humanity has a question for your empire, a very important question that's going to determine what happens next. Despite everything, despite watching his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had underestimated in every possible way, Zethkar found himself curious about what these impossible humans wanted to know." "What question?" Captain Chen's expression became deadly serious. "We want to know about the other 47 species you conquered. We want to know if they're truly loyal to your empire, or if they're just waiting for someone to give them hope." The implications hit Zethkar like a physical blow. The humans weren't just defeating his fleet, they were threatening the very foundation of the empire itself. Because if the conquered species learned that the Imperial Navy could be beaten— "You're talking about rebellion," he whispered. "We're talking about liberation," Chen corrected. "And Admiral, we're very good at both war and liberation. It's what humans do." As the last of his escort ships vanished under the human barrage, Admiral Zethkar realized that this battle wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And the Imperial Navy had just discovered that they were fighting an enemy unlike any they had ever faced. An enemy that had been preparing for this moment since they first learned they weren't alone in the universe. The Galactic Empire tried to intimidate. The galaxy changes. Admiral Zethkar sat in his command chair aboard the crippled Dominion's Fist, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete devastation of his once mighty fleet. Of nearly 2,000 Imperial vessels that had entered this system, fewer than 50 remained operational. The humans had systematically dismantled the Third Imperial Fleet with a precision that still made his head spin. But they had stopped firing 30 minutes ago. "Admiral," Commander Veltar approached cautiously, "the humans are hailing us again." "Put them through," Zethkar said wearily. He had no more fight left in him. No more arrogance, no more assumptions about primitive species. The humans had shattered everything he thought he knew about warfare. Captain Chen appeared on the view screen, but her bridge was no longer bathed in the red light of combat. Instead, the lighting had returned to normal, and her crew seemed to be engaged in routine operations rather than battle management. "Admiral Zethkar," she said, her voice carrying none of the triumphant gloating he might have expected from a victor. Are you prepared to listen now? I'm prepared to surrender, Zethkar replied. Your species has proven its superiority. The Empire will negotiate terms. That's not what we want, Chen said, surprising him. We don't want your surrender, Admiral. We want your help. My help? Captain Chen nodded. Admiral, how much do you actually know about the species your empire has conquered? It was an odd question. They serve the Empire faithfully. They provide resources, labor, technological expertise. They're slaves, Chen interrupted. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking what you know about them as people. Their cultures, their histories, their dreams before they were conquered. Zethkar felt uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Such details are irrelevant to Imperial administration. Are they? Chen asked. Admiral, while we've been talking, we've been in communication with resistance movements on 47 worlds across your empire. The words hit Zethkar like a physical blow. Impossible. There are no resistance movements. The conquered species accepted Imperial rule. No, Admiral. They submitted to Imperial rule because they had no choice. There's a difference. Captain Chen gestured to something off-screen, and the view screen split to show dozens of different alien faces, species that Zethkar recognized as conquered citizens of the Empire. Allow me to introduce you to some friends of ours, Chen continued. This is Commander Vorthak of the Karathi Liberation Front, General Ceylon of the Free Vallani Army, Captain Bruthor of the Borthak Resistance. They've been waiting a very long time for someone to give them hope. Each alien face that appeared on the screen represented a species that the Empire had supposedly pacified decades or even centuries ago. But as Zethkar looked into their eyes, he saw something that chilled him to his core. They weren't defeated. They were angry. How? He whispered. How did you contact them? The same way we've been monitoring your empire for 50 years, Chen replied. We've been listening to everything, Admiral. Every communication, every transmission, every cry for help that your people thought no one would hear. Commander Vorthak, the Karathi representative, spoke for the first time. His voice carried centuries of suppressed rage. We never forgot our freedom, Zelthrak. We simply waited for the moment when we could reclaim it. General Ceylon of the Vallani added her own voice. Our children are taught the old ways in secret. Our scientists have been developing new technologies in hidden laboratories. We have been preparing. Preparing for what? Zethkar asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. For today, Captain Bruthor rumbled. The day someone proved that the Imperial Navy could be defeated. Captain Chen turned back to the screen. Admiral, your empire has a choice to make, and so do you. What choice? The galactic balance of power just shifted permanently, Chen explained. Your fleet, the fleet that was supposed to be invincible, has been destroyed by a single human battle group. When news of this reaches your empire, what do you think is going to happen? Zethkar didn't need to think about it. The answer was obvious and terrifying. Revolution, system-wide rebellion. The Empire will tear itself apart. Exactly. Unless what? Captain Chen leaned forward. Unless the Empire chooses to evolve instead of collapse. Admiral, humanity didn't come to this galaxy to build another empire. We came to find friends among the stars, partners, allies. She gestured again, and the view screen now showed star maps with highlighted systems, dozens of them, scattered across Imperial space. We're offering the Empire a choice, Chen continued. Transform from a conquering force into a cooperative alliance, grant independence to the species that want it, and establish fair trade relationships with those who choose to remain affiliated. In return, humanity will share our technology and help establish a new galactic order based on mutual cooperation rather than domination. And if the Empire refuses? Chen's expression hardened. Then we help our new friends liberate themselves by force. Admiral, what you've seen today is just one human battle group. Our entire fleet has been preparing for galactic war for 50 years. We have the technology to defeat the Imperial Navy, and we have allies waiting on dozens of worlds. The implications were staggering. Zethkar realized that the humans hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had effectively conquered his empire without firing a shot at any world other than this one. "You're offering us a chance to surrender gracefully," he said. "We're offering you a chance to be part of something better," Chen corrected. "Admiral, your empire has advanced technology, vast resources, and knowledge of hundreds of star systems. Combined with human innovation and the enthusiasm of formerly conquered species, we could build something incredible together." Commander Veltar stepped forward. "Admiral, perhaps we should consider their proposal. The alternative appears to be the complete destruction of Imperial civilization." Zethkar looked around his ruined bridge, then at the faces on the view screen, humans who had outfought him and aliens who had outweighted him. For 3 centuries, he had believed in the superiority of the Imperial way. Now he was being offered a chance to be part of something new. "What guarantees do we have that this alliance you propose will honor its agreements?" he asked. "The same guarantee you gave to 47 species when you conquered them," Chen replied. "None, except that our track record suggests we prefer cooperation to conquest, while your track record suggests the opposite." It was a fair point, and one that Zethkar couldn't argue with. "I don't have the authority to negotiate on behalf of the Empire," he said. "Then we suggest you contact someone who does," Chen said. "Admiral, we're going to give you a gift. We're going to let your surviving ships return to Imperial space to deliver our message, but we're also giving you something else." The view screen shifted to show technical schematics that made Zethkar's eyes widen. The designs were clearly human, but they incorporated Imperial technology in ways that seemed impossible. Medical technology that could extend the lifespan of any species by centuries, agricultural systems that could feed entire star systems, transportation methods that make your current FTL drives look like primitive chemical rockets, Chen explained. All of it freely shared with any species that joins the new alliance. And for those who don't, they're welcome to continue as they are, but they won't have access to the technologies that Alliance members share, and they won't have our protection if other Alliance members decide to defend themselves against continued Imperial aggression. It was masterfully done, Zethkar realized. The humans weren't threatening conquest. They were making the Empire's current methods obsolete by offering something better to everyone else. "How long do we have to decide?" he asked. "The revolution is already beginning," Commander Vorthak interjected. 3 systems have declared independence since news of your fleet's defeat began spreading. 5 more have announced they're holding referendums on Imperial membership. Your empire has perhaps a standard year before it either transforms or collapses, Chen added. "We'd prefer transformation. Collapsed empires tend to leave behind dangerous power vacuums that cause problems for everyone." Zethkar studied the human captain's face, looking for deception or hidden motives, but all he saw was someone who genuinely seemed to believe in what she was saying. "Captain Chen, why are you doing this? You could have simply destroyed us and taken what you wanted." Chen smiled, that same disturbing smile that had unsettled him from their first conversation. "Admiral, I told you that humans have been fighting wars for our entire history, but we've also been dreaming of peace. We learned something important from all those centuries of conflict. Victory through destruction is temporary. Victory through cooperation lasts forever." She gestured to the star map again. "We looked at your empire and saw something that could be transformed into the foundation of a galactic civilization that could explore the universe, unlock the secrets of existence, and maybe even find answers to questions we haven't learned to ask yet. And if we choose to fight instead?" Captain Chen's smile faded, and for a moment, Zethkar saw something that reminded him why humans had climbed to the top of their world's food chain through pure stubbornness. Then we'll win that war too, Admiral. And the galaxy will be rebuilt without Imperial participation. The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar alone with his thoughts and the ruins of his fleet. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that would determine not just their own fates, but the fate of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. "Set course for the Imperial capital," Zethkar finally commanded. "Maximum speed." "Sir," Commander Veltar asked, "what will you tell the Imperial Council?" Zethkar looked out at the human fleet, still holding position exactly where they had been when the battle ended. 200 ships that had redefined the possible and offered the galaxy a choice between evolution and extinction. "I'm going to tell them that the galaxy just changed forever," he said, "and that we can either change with it or be left behind." As the surviving Imperial ships limped into hyperspace, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization, Admiral Zethkar couldn't help but wonder if the humans had been planning this moment from the very first day they looked up at the stars and decided they wanted to explore them. Knowing what he now knew about human nature, he suspected they probably had. The age of Imperial dominance was over. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin. And somewhere in the Sol system, humanity was already preparing for the next phase of their impossible plan to save a galaxy by making friends with everyone in it.